better have a recording than deciding later that we want to have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the doc, I tried first to come up with the things that we're trying to solve in that issue, because I feel like we switched direction, which we changed the problem that we're trying to solve.
I lost Winnie. Did you lose him, Donald?
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be an awesome recording. Winnie, we got you back? No?
See movement, but no
see his mouth moving. Yeah. Winnie, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, so we lost you from basically the start of when you were describing the current problems. So
yeah,
you could do that all again, please.
I'll try to do it over, but quicker this time. So we're trying to solve a couple different problems in the issue now, and I try to list them here. Also, I tried to list the strategies that we have discussed in the issue already with small additions, and ordered them by effort that I think they need to be implemented. So there's basically one that I think can be done within a single recycle. All the others would probably spend multiple. And yeah, I will post the result of this discussion in the issue for future reference. For the problems, I think it started off as a licensing problem, but then became the issue for the X problem that reCAPTCHA has. And throughout the discussion, I think we realized that we can't even measure that reCAPTCHA is a good solution for the problem that it tries to solve.
Yes. So just to be clear, there is a little bit of a conflation here between two different spam mitigation technologies we use. And we have Akismet, which I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing correctly, but whatever, which we use to actually check the text of an issue or whatever for potentially spam content. And then there is reCAPTCHA, which we use to both verify signups and to, if your content that you submit is detected as spam by Akismet, we allow you to solve a CAPTCHA to like manually like get through that step, like, you know, rather than us just rejecting it. So
my intention was to focus on the plan side of the reCAPTCHA. So I'm not sure if our goal should be to get rid of reCAPTCHA in GitLab in general, even though that was the original scope of the issue. But it seems like Manage has a separate issue for coming up with a strategy to get rid of reCAPTCHA for registering. So my intention would be to focus on the reCAPTCHA part for preventing issue and comment spam.
Yes, so on the issue and comment spam part, just to sort of be clear there, so we have the two components. We have Akismet and we have the reCAPTCHA. So from an annoyance perspective, the annoyance is with the reCAPTCHA, but it's not caused by the reCAPTCHA. It's caused by the use of Akismet for checking the issue contents for spam. And then our fallback is the reCAPTCHA. From a licensing perspective, obviously that doesn't, that doesn't matter. Like, the problem is reCAPTCHA itself, and there are other issues that people have, other valid issues that people have with reCAPTCHA that aren't to do with that. But I just want to be clear that if we remove reCAPTCHA, we're either saying we're not doing spam checking on issues, which means we're actually disabling Akismet, not reCAPTCHA, or we're saying that when we detect that something is spam using Akismet, we're just going to reject it with no way of, like moving forward, which I think is probably worse.
Do we have any kind of metrics on how many times it's actually failing Akismet? Akismet?
Yeah, I have no idea how you're supposed to pronounce that. I'd probably find it on YouTube or something, but I've never bothered to look. We don't. So if we wanted to make that the first thing, but I just want to try and untangle those two a certain amount, because I think because reCAPTCHA is the visible part and Akismet, whatever, is the like hidden part, that we talk about reCAPTCHA when we sometimes mean Akismet and sometimes mean reCAPTCHA. But I think metrics would be a good idea. So for step one, for instance, Winnie, we could just immediately disable Akismet on GitLab.com. And that would have the effect of not spam checking issues, etc. Which means that you would never see a reCAPTCHA either, because that only shows up when Akismet detects something as spam. So that's literally like zero development effort to do that. I guess the problem is that without those metrics, which is what you've said, no indication of increased spam, no way to react there. So
yeah, I mean, if we disable Akismet in general, my intention was to keep Akismet enabled, but disable the reaction to that. So keep track of spam behind the scenes, but have no way to override that. Which would be some development effort, but if we disable Akismet in general, our reaction could be to just enable it again. Like because I think Akismet is a admin setting, as far as I know. So if we disable it and realize that things happen, we can just enable it, which would be very low effort. So we would have a way to react, even though we may not realize that we need to react.
Yeah, so, and again, just to detangle these issues, because the issue that we're talking about is about reCAPTCHA not being open source and yet being distributed. And the problem that people are mostly complaining about is that they see a CAPTCHA at all because of the spam check.
So do you think we should split these problems again into separate issues? One being finding a different CAPTCHA solution that would then work with Akismet together, and B, making Akismet less annoying? Because if we have realized that CAPTCHAs in general are not a good solution UX-wise, we probably don't need to spend effort on finding an alternative CAPTCHA solution.
So I don't know. I think we should look into replacing reCAPTCHA anyway, because even if we remove or change the spam checks for issues, like when I say we, I mean us an organization, because we also use it for signups. So that's one thing. I think for the spam detection, we could definitely add, we could make it smarter, right? Like, you know, we could say, if this user has like, you know, submitted whatever like comments, like, you know, has whatever history, then it's probably not spam from them, because I think most of this is going to be like either somebody who is just submitting spam or somebody who is just a regular user in general.
That would be replacing Akismet with our own spam detection back,
or augmenting it, saying like, okay, well, we will go to Akismet unless the user is like, you know, I don't know, has contributed to X amount of times or whatever.
Yeah, we are rate limiting would be one of the options.
Yeah, the rate limiting is another option that you mentioned.
yeah, I mean, would be one of the options to augment it. Like if the, for example, for the task list stuff, we definitely want Akismet not to consider many different checkbox clickings to be spammy.
Yes. So, and there's another part to that, which is actually a completely separate facet, which just occurred to me, is because we have, like Fatty and Brett implemented this separate like code path for checking a checkbox. We should never spam check that, because the issue isn't going to get any more or less spammy when a checkbox state changes. So I think that's one immediate win.
which is a new possibility, right? Because of the re-implementation of the checkbox logic,
yes,
we now have the option not to spam check, which we did not have prior to that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the most irritating case for me, for sure. Is like, I'm just trying to check a box here. Like, I'm not adding a link. I'm not removing a link. Like, this clearly can't be spam. So actually, maybe that's the smallest iteration that would give the most like immediate benefit to us at GitLab. And
that should probably then be a separate issue.
Yes, I agree.
I'll add it as an action item.
Cool. And then the capture alternatives is kind of a separate question. So I think we have a bunch of conflation of things, and we should try and sort of step back. So the way I would like to consider moving forward is there's an internal customer thing for security. I don't really understand what that issue is about, but it's confidential, so I won't mention the issue. So I think if we remove spam detection for a task list, that's a huge, for task list changes, that's a huge win. Like it's pretty simple to do, I would imagine. And it's a big win from a user experience perspective, because this is, I don't know about you, but like I check a lot more tasks than I do actually like write descriptions in issues. The general, what do we do about the license of this capture? I think we could punt to, or say it's kind of split between plan and manage, because it's used for two different things. We could also create an issue for better spam detection in general. But I would basically like to, how can I put this? This specific issue about the license of reCAPTCHA, I think, is important, but it seems to like get conflated with a lot of other things. So what I would like to do is I would like to redirect the conversation. So spam checks on checkboxes, you're going to create a new issue for that. Spam checks not being smart enough in general, we can create a new issue for that. We can say, make the spam detection smarter. And we can point out in that issue that actually this isn't to do with reCAPTCHA, this is to do with Akismet. And then for the capture license, I think that's mostly a front-end question. I'm not really familiar with what the alternatives are out there, but basically the intent of that from like a product perspective is to say, like, we have this content that was detected as spam. We want some way of the user being able to validate and say, like, no, this wasn't spam. I'm a legitimate user, whatever. And that's what we've used so far. So that's the intent. And I think if we can find another solution that does that, probably not going to say no. Like, it's not really my.
Is there a configuration on the reCAPTCHA at all currently, or is that just that's built in? We don't have any way of just turning off reCAPTCHA in issues and comments, do we?
No. So like I said earlier, what that would mean is like either we disable so if we added that, if we added the ability to disable reCAPTCHA in issues, for instance, what we will be doing is saying, well, if it's detected as spam by Akismet, you can't proceed. We can disable Akismet independently, which would have basically the same effect, but is not strictly what you asked. And
well, because we can still have Akismet enabled and then just not do anything if it detects spam, right?
Oh, that's true. So we could just have it in like monitoring mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. So we do have some. So there is this spam logs table, which I'm not really sure how it works, but we record things in it. So it's.
What would be the consequence though if we keep Akismet enabled but disable reCAPTCHA, then people being recognized as spammy, even though they have not spammed, would then need to create a support ticket to be unblocked?
Yes, although an alternative, which I think is basically what Donald was saying, so I might just be repeating what he just said, is like we could have Akismet enabled, but not actually do anything, just only log the results. And then we already have these spam logs that are visible to instance admins. And we could say, well, it becomes a reactive thing from an instance admin perspective, where you can go in and look at the things that have been detected as spam and see like, okay, is there anything I need to take action on here? Or is there anything I don't?
So we would treat it as if a user had successfully solved reCAPTCHA.
We would treat it, yeah, kind of. We would basically make it reactive. So we would say like, we're going to let you submit this, but we detected it as spam. So it's we're storing that information somewhere, and it's visible to instance administrators, and they can like go and take a look later on and consider whether they're going to block you for abuse or whatever.
Yeah, so we move the burden from users where it's currently at to admins, essentially.
Yes, and we would definitely need to talk to the abuse team about this, but I think that could be another like separate issue, like where we say like change like spam burden from user to administrator or something like that.
If we make that a feature flag, we could enable it as a first iteration only for GitLab org group, right? Or at least only on Canary.
Can't do feature flags for just Canary yet. We could do it for yes, GitLab org group. We could do that.
So we would introduce a feature flag that is basically disabling reCAPTCHA and like sort of returning true. This is supposed to go through, and then enable that feature flag for GitLab org as the first iteration and see what happens, and look into the Akismet logs afterwards.
Yeah, so I'm just added Mark, who's sitting next to me, but has also dealt with some of this spam stuff in the past. So Mark, I'm going to mute after this because it's probably weird for you to hear this. But could you just talk us through how, so what we're discussing is the idea that like, instead of asking people to solve a captcha when their content is detected as spam, we would just allow it through, and then it would still go into the spam logs in the admin interface, and then we'd let administrators still like deal with that normally from there. Could you just describe how that looks from an administrator's point of view and whether you think that makes sense?
Yeah, it's just a big list right now. So there's, it will list the user and the content that's been reported. But I think that would be fine if you just let it through and just list it in exactly the same way. Yeah.
Is it the abuse team who currently manage that list?
Yeah, I think also the GitLab, GitLab.com support team look at it a lot because get tickets from Zendesk where someone might have been blocked. Their content might not be going through, so they need to review it as well.
Okay, so I think those are two valid paths forward we have then, like, but which we can do independently, but both of them give us like some kind of win. One is to disable the spam check when you're checking a checkbox, because why need it? And then the other one is to create a new issue for always allowing content detected as spam through, but keeping the existing admin interface and working with the abuse team and the GitLab.com support team to make sure that this is okay, and putting that behind a feature flag so we can actually test it. And then if we do both of those, potentially we get the whole question of who owns reCAPTCHA off our plate and back onto fully manager's plate, because like no longer are we using reCAPTCHA for any spam related purposes, and then we don't have to actually touch this issue at all. So maybe we just would move this issue to the backlog and create those two new issues and put those on 12.1 or 12.2 and go forward with those. How does that sound, Winnie?
Sounds good.
Are you okay to create those issues?
I will create them. Also, potentially a third issue to leverage Akismet, should that be necessary?
Oh yes, to enhance, like, you know, make it smarter, like what we're doing with Akismet, you mean?
Yeah, because if we switch that feature flag and realize now we're getting a whole lot of spam because of disabling reCAPTCHA as a prevention, then we would still be without a solution for that.
Yes, and the other thing is that we know that if we change that feature flag right now, we would see a bunch of spam in the spam logs that would be irrelevant, because it would just be people checking boxes, because like we get the capture, so we know that Akismet is detecting that spam, and we don't want that to happen. So yeah, we need three new issues. We need one to make the spam check smarter, we need one for the no spam check on task list update, and we need another one to add a feature flag to always allow and content detected as spam to be submitted and then deal with it reactively. So I guess, like, you know, when you have like some discussion forums that are pre-moderated, like, or mailing lists or whatever that are pre-moderated, where you have to get like the message approved before it goes through, and then other ones where it can be removed afterwards, but not, you can always submit the message.
Maybe I make that an ordered list, because we want to have no spam detection for task list first, I guess. This is annoying. Maybe not.
I'm just going to do it. There you go.
Okay. I wanted to have this unordered, but this ordered.
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. Now change it to word first, second. So, so we want no spam detection for task list first to not pollute the log. Then we want to have the feature flag for disabling reCAPTCHA.
Well, I guess I'm allowing spam through, because yeah. Or I can just type it.
I guess that C issue has potential to be then split into multiple smaller ones, depending on the discussion.
I think that one will probably split up, because at the moment we're just discussing like what we could do there. We don't know what the right option is, but I think the first two might get us to a point where we don't care about the third one so much. I think so. They're in the right order as you have them there.
And should we realize from B that we indeed need reCAPTCHA, then we probably need another issue to replace reCAPTCHA with another CAPTCHA library
that's
that
this issue.
has a better license.
So I guess.
But even if we make Akismet smarter, we would still include reCAPTCHA in the front end. So we would still have the licensing issue. Yeah. So we keep that the existing issue limited to the licensing problem, which I fear it is not. At least the discussion is not.
Sorry, say again.
Which I fear the current discussion in that issue is not limited to.
No,
that.
And I get why it's not, because like I said at the start, the thing is when your issue is detected as spam, what you see is a reCAPTCHA. You don't see anything about Akismet. So it's like from a user perspective, that's what you get there. There is a internal customer there, and that issue is confidential, so I won't mention it here, but the internal customer issue is being taken by Manage. So it probably also makes Manager's life easier if we can remove the plan element of this. But I think we can also possibly say that other issue isn't blocked because, so we can just like unblock that other issue basically, and say that. I think that's fair enough, right? Because whatever we would replace it with on the front end would be kind of a drop-in replacement type thing, ideally, right? Like it wouldn't be like a rewrite everything. It would be we replace reCAPTCHA with this solution that we've written or that we've got somewhere else that has a better license, a license that we can distribute.
And for A and B, you want them to put them in 12.2.
Well, I think we could put them in 12.1, certainly A, because this issue was already in 12.1, and then we kind of just said it was blocked. So I don't see a problem in putting it. I don't know. Donald's nodding. So yeah, I don't see a problem in putting at least one issue back because it's just a straight swap, basically.
Mm-hmm. And then so I'll set the milestone of and this to 12.1.
Yeah, and we then need to move this issue out of this milestone.
And this is probably, I mean, this will be in a backlog until it's further split or we come up with a solution there.
Yeah. And B and C need to be discussed with the abuse team and that comm support team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else we wanted to talk about? I feel like we got somewhere at least.
Yeah, I will post especially the action items in the issue as an outcome of the discussion.
Awesome. I'll also post this video on YouTube. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, everyone.